Hello guys. This is Ammonia Void here with the 10th episode already. And this time I thought we could look at the idea of criticism and how to approach it in relation to our work and life in general. Because it's something that we face and at some point will face and it will continue happening. Um, so let's have a look if it's necessarily negative, positive, how we can tackle it, and all these different thoughts. I made some notes today, so I'll be like scrolling here a little bit. I hope you can you can forgive me for that, but I cannot remember everything. So how I came up with this topic was because I don't know. This year, I feel like I'm getting quite a lot of critique. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. And, no matter what I do, I think there's always a way that people would find things to critique me for, no matter what I do, whether it's, let's say, shooting news or photographing people of color. There's always something. And the interesting thing is that somehow it's always, let's say, white people coming up with some smart ideas to educate me, or it is men telling me how I should photograph a woman and what I'm doing wrong, and mansplaining me a lot of things and how to use the camera properly, blah, 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 blah. Um, so I also wanted to point out in this video that sometimes the critique also has nothing to do with you, and it's rather a direct reflection of the person. The important thing with critique is that to take it seriously. And I think as artists we're often overthinkers, and I consider myself to be a massive overthinker. So before I put something out there, I really try to evaluate my position as a photographer or whoever, and the way I work, because I don't want to cause harm to people. And the critique that I take seriously is mostly from people that I value their opinion, and and that I think are trying to give me critique to actually help me, and not from people who are trying to put me down, or that they project their own insecurities and biases on me. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish, because if it's somebody you don't know, you have to evaluate if it's actually something that you take in or just ignore. Um, and to accept critique is very hard because it hurts our ego, of course. It is personal, and at some point, it can become also discouraging if you keep um, getting like negative comments. Um, but make sure to try to identify the real critique from jealousy, insecurity, racism, sexism, because it can often mask itself as that. So let me give you an example of critique that I received recently. So I think when I moved to Paris, one of the first things that I photographed um, was a party for only queer women in kind of Caribbean vibe, um, and you know I, I I think day after I posted some videos from the party, I received a message on Instagram from a person that I actually never interacted with, but I know that this person follows me for a long time. And so it came to me as a complete surprise. So the message said, "Are you sure that is not racism to show black people like animals?" What do I say? No, I I tried to analyze it, like, oh, did I do something wrong, or like what is my position in relation to this? um so but then I said, whoa, this has nothing to do with me. So I responded like, what are you actually talking about? It was a queer party for women who are dancing freely. um And the fact that this triggers this person has nothing to do with me, and she is the one establishing this very, very strange and very, very racist reference that I have never put out there. um, because for me it was very liberating experience. I'm also a woman of color, I'm from mixed origin, so I felt very much part of this, um, part of the group who was celebrating just life and enjoying themselves. um, so at some point I was like, whoa, people cannot even have fun lately, just to get criticized for what exactly, you know? And this for me is an example of not a critique, because it's mask racism. And you know, she actually digged a hole for herself because she exposed herself. She also never responded to when I to my messages, um, meaning that she actually had nothing to say after. And honestly, maybe that's good, because I hope she's gonna do some introspection, because we all can do mistakes, you know, we all can like say this random things on internet because we feel like we don't bear the responsibility of what we say, or we are not that visible as if it was in person. um, but yeah, very, very strange things. So for me, this was something that, a comment that I would not really take in, because it's not really valid for me. and and I feel that often you're gonna have these watchers on Instagram, kind of people waiting, also in real life, you know, people waiting for me to do something wrong, to fail, and they're just waiting to attack, you know, and then, oh, finally she just stumbled or something, you know. um, but bring those attacks, bring those attacks, you know. I am ready and you are ready too. So as I already said, as overthinkers, we probably already predetermined or like expected this scenario to happen in your head, um, before it actually happens. So don't worry, we are ready. And I was reading, it's funny because every time I read something and there's something relevant to it, and in this book, Animal Joy, that I keep promoting here, I promise it's not like a paid promotion or anything, it's just a really good book. So, in the book I read in the park recently, racism is a form of perversion. The evidence in the world relating to other human beings becomes twisted to avoid the psychic pain involved in accepting what is before you as reality. And having that reality demand that you adjust your beliefs about others and yourself. One often cannot bear to tolerate the conflicting views of others or of the self in their full complexity. The defense mechanism of splitting is used to polarize a person into all good, then all bad. A few lines later, there was also, racist thinking maintains a split between beliefs and evidence. It systematizes confusion. So it twists evidence to fit beliefs, which is exactly what happened with this woman. She twisted the materials that I shared into something that is actually fitting her beliefs. The way I portray people is in relation to how she believes people of color are, and that has nothing to do with my beliefs. So she twisted this evidence to fit her own, and then she blames me for it. So, you know, once you do these kind of evaluations, you realize what is actually the core thing of this. And this is just to give you an example how you can also shield yourself from a critique that is not really critique. I give you another example that happened some time ago, and this was during an art fair where I worked, and I was selling some books, and some of the books were also mine. And I had this person coming up to me, and I had, what was it? Oh yeah, I had discarded magazine on the table, which is a erotic magazine that I curated, and the person was going through the magazine, and he looked at me, and he said, "You did this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I curated it, but it's like mix of different photographers." And he looked at me and said, "Are your parents proud of you?" And like, where does this question come from? Like, what about an introduction or something? Um, so I just look at him and I said, "Are your parents proud of you?" Because, excuse me, like, what is this? What is this question? How freaking dare you? At the same time, I said, "Yeah, they are actually proud of me." And what about you? And the fact that I reversed this, it made him very, very insecure. And I realized again, this was not even a critique, it was a question that tries to put you down based on what you do without any actual reasoning. Um, so the way how you can protect yourself in this situation is to improvise, and this resilience, letting things bounce off you, um, keeps the projections of others from getting beneath your surface. So just try to like build this thick skin and let these ugly things bounce off you, because I also think people will respect you more if you say something back, and no matter who this person is, um, just strike back. And actually, the funny thing is that I realized that this person, like before, like some years before, he actually bought my work, a lot of my books, and a lot of, and even prints. So I was like, he actually likes my work. So what was this question about? So very often, I think, really, as like more than half of criticism is rather like insecure projection of the other person or their conflicting beliefs. So just nothing to do with me, okay? And of course, there is some critique that is important to take into account. And I think you can also kind of avoid critique by doing a lot of introspection before you share things and before you actually take pictures. There's a lot of things to consider. And getting back to the example of what I gave with the party that I photographed, I I considered a lot of things in terms of like, are people okay with being photographed? Um, is it too vulnerable, or will they be okay with the picture tomorrow? What are my intentions of photographing in these kind of spaces, of photographing people? These are all very important questions to ask yourself, and if you know the answers, it's also way easier to answer and deal with critique. Critique can also become a form of compliment because people actually took time to say something about your work, they studied your work. So if you're not worth the critique, they wouldn't do it. So for instance, in academia, um, if somebody like critiques your theories or like writes an entire essay to critique your paper or something, it's actually a lot of effort. So if it wasn't worth it, they wouldn't do it. um, and critique can be a great learning point, as I said, from the people who you value their opinion. um, Perhaps this person is hitting on something that you should consider next time. It can be a way better thing than a compliment, because it can push you further, it challenges you, or it makes you see things from a different perspective. So these are the critiques we should keep and be grateful for. Um, but critique is like a natural process of making work and putting it out there, so not hiding it from others. So don't let yourself get destabilized by critique. It's only natural to receive it, as we share work publicly, so it makes people feel they have the right to say something about it. And most of it you can simply brush off because it doesn't really mean anything. So please don't be sad. Don't be sad. If somebody tries to criticize your work, try to see if it's really genuine, if you can learn something from it, or if it's just something that is like to put you down. Just brush it off, and try to learn from critique as much as you can, because this is actually feedback for free for you. So you can take it as something positive. We try to learn how to turn the negative into positive. And I'm curious how you deal with critique. This was just like a little touch on this topic, because it's something that I face, and I think we all face, and it's okay, and it's good to talk about it. So I hope you enjoyed this little rant on criticism, and I see you soon again. Ciao, ciao.